It's time for Drummer Nation. Welcome to Drummer Nation, the show about drums, drummers, and drumming. This is show 4, Free Ain't Free. For this show, I chat with Phil Hood, the publisher of Drum Magazine, from his booth at the Chicago Drum Show. With the experience of 242 issues over 25 years, Phil points out the challenges of print and online publishing in this rapidly changing industry. That's up next on Drummer Nation. My guest for this segment of Drummer Nation is Phil Hood. Phil Hood is the publisher of Drum Magazine and a longtime friend.
How you doing, Mike?
Thanks for doing this, man.
It's good to be here.
Well, you have Drum Magazine as part of a larger format, right?
Well,
Enter Music?
Enter Music Publishing is the parent company, but Drum Magazine is the primary thing we do, really. And everything else we do is a spin-off from that.
How long has that magazine been?
25 years. 25 years in September.
So you got to figure over all those years, everybody's had their shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thankless job as to who's on the cover and who's in the magazine, I'm sure.
There have been 242 issues. So
it all comes out in a wash.
Yeah. I mean, there have been, sort of phases of the industry and of how the magazine covered drummers and music in that time. Things have changed a lot.
A lot. Well, and the whole publishing industry, as everybody knows, is in a giant restructuring.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think drum started, in some ways, for people in the magazine business, drum started at the end of the golden age of magazines. The 80s were a really creative time in the magazine industry, but magazines like Vanity Fair and a lot of other big magazines were created, were at their peak, and there was a lot of interesting stuff going on in design and photography and typography that people who were in the magazine business were paying attention to.
Well, as a reader, not a publisher, I notice every magazine getting thinner and thinner every year.
Mm-hmm.
How has the print aspect of the whole thing changed?
Well, the biggest change in our magazine has been, and lots of other magazines, has been since the crash in 2007. It changed the fortunes of a lot of the advertisers. It changed the fortunes of a lot of the readers and their families. It changed the way people had disposable income in this country. Not just for magazines, but for musical instruments and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Right.
So I bet if you look at 2006, we had average issues that were 140 pages today. Usually we never let them get below 100 pages. So that gives you an idea.
Oh yeah, and how about magazines exist on advertising.
By and large.
Social media has made quite an impact in that, hasn't it? What's that been? What's the big change from that?
I think the biggest change for magazines, newspapers, TV, all traditional media is that it's just supply and demand. There's such volume of content that's available in the world today. That sort of devalues all content.
I think so, because manufacturers have the way of reaching beyond or around or instead of traditional publishers.
Sure. They have ways to reach customers that they didn't have before.
YouTube channel, Facebook, some of these people have over 1 million fans on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard for a magazine to compete with. Plus it's
yes
their own
and
message,
no.
100%.
That's one area that I researched. In fact, I just completed a study of followers on social media. Remember the one we did a couple of years ago?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so we just completed a new one. One of the things I've noticed is that there's really big differences between quantity of followers posts and sort of the engagement level for different companies. Some companies are really good at engaging with those followers.
I track a bunch of them, and that's what I look for is engagement.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just whistling it away.
Yeah. So you're looking at this too. You know, I think the other thing that digital media held this promise to people that you would be able to sort of help if you were trying to sell something, you'd be sort of able to help shepherd a person through that sales cycle, so you would know when somebody was a buyer as opposed to a tire kicker. But in practice, I don't think it hasn't exactly worked out that way, because when you advertise or when you get your message to a potential customer, let's say you're a lone guy making drumsticks, and you set up a website and you have a Twitter feed and you run some ads and you start to grow, and eventually, you know, you're getting messages out. But that customer's next step could be to go to GuitarCenter.com, Amazon, or walk into a music store, or pick up a catalog from Interstate Music. You don't really, it's going to be really tough to ever get to where there's sort of a direct line of communication all the way through that.
They generally call it the purchase funnel.
Sure.
Right? You take everybody into the funnel, and they're on your site, they're immersed in your culture, and they buy it. But that doesn't really exist in our industry, and many others.
I would say the big impact in terms of advertising budgets is that if you're a company, a big drum company, you've got to really invest tremendous amounts of your marketing in things like taking 50 to 100 photos of every one of your products, so that you can offer different photography to all of your online partners, so that you're prepared for any need that arises online. Also, it could be video of that product. And that gets you into the business of having photo studios and video studios and enormous computing resources devoted to enormous databases of images and so forth. It could just be to feed your own website, but companies have sort of gone through a cycle the last 5 or 6 years where they really had to divert a lot of marketing money to that project.
Right. Well, I had a company, I did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I noticed is that these are all generally small companies, like the whole floor of the NAMM show or this show with percussion companies. In the realm of things are small companies, but they have enormous marketing expenses.
Yes.
For a company that size, like the size of a local dry cleaner, they have to market in many magazines, they have to be online, they have to do trade shows and artist endorsements and international.
It's a killer.
The expenses are enormous. Whereas you could put have your little dry cleaners and put an ad in Church Bulletin.
Yeah.
You got your marketing covered.
That's right.
And they're grossing about the same amounts of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an uphill
And
battle.
and your word of mouth is sort of real. You're not investing in it. When you're working Facebook and Twitter and social media, you hire somebody to do social media. Suddenly, you've got a big expense
Right.
on your
But
budget.
something that's free, right?
It's not free.
It's free media until you build your video studio.
Yeah. So that's been a challenge for all of them. And the bigger companies, they don't have the option of opting out.
Right.
They can't say, well, we're not going to be on Amazon. We're not going to be in social media. We're not going to put in in-store advertising or.
Now, this is an additional expense.
It's
It
an
doesn't really
additional
liberate
expense.
anything.
That's right.
Now, on the other hand, conversely, as a publisher, you can utilize that and offer advertisers something much larger in scope than one magazine.
Well, I think publishers offer a few things. One is they offer a self-selected audience. So people who pay for a subscription or come to a magazine website are really clearly drummers in this case, and serious drummers. And because non-serious drummers don't read an article online on how to play in 17/8 or whatever. So the publications have this sort of self-selected audience. It's a subset of the whole drumming audience. And those people are, they're intermediate and advanced players. They're serious about it, and they're buying gear, and they're probably influential within their cohort.
So you have a much better pre-selected audience.
Yes, and I think that's actually the number one thing that you sell in a way. And print, the advantages of that print used to have. Print has all the advantages it used to have. There's just more competition. The advantages that print always had previously were that it didn't interrupt your media experience. People who buy
They call it
guitar-
interrupted advertising.
yeah, almost all of their advertising is interrupted.
It's like, hey, look at me.
Magazines are one of the only products that people buy
Right.
because they like the ads. If they're into fashion or guitars or cars or whatever.
Oftentimes it's the first thing they look at.
Yeah, so they have that advantage. Also, print's a really believable medium. Lots of studies have been done on this. People who read something in print are more likely to think it's true than if it's on Joe's conspiracy blog. And it probably is more true.
Probably is.
Because typically mainstream print outlets have editors and copy editors and fact checkers and so forth.
Right. You have a lot of credibility behind it.
Yeah, so print has a lot of authority. And that makes it useful for positioning yourself as important. A company like Zildjian buys ads on the back covers of lots of magazines, and that position gives them a great position of authority.
It's the industry leader.
It's a treasured position in print. It's less meaningful in an online environment.
But also as a publisher, you put together coalitions for online advertising.
Yeah,
right?
so we have a network of sites that we sell advertising on. So sites like Drum Channel, Online Drummer, Drummer Cafe. You can place a banner ad. Sometimes other kinds of advertising with us, and we run that ad on all of those sites simultaneously.
It's very effective. So you're harnessing the power of the net as well.
We're trying to get bigger reach that way.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
You definitely get bigger.
Yes.
So how does the future look for publishing?
I think honestly it's really uncertain. I mean, I think there aren't that many raging success stories in publishing right now. Even the internet sites that get the greatest traffic as new media sites like BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Business Insider, these companies are not profitable the way the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and Vogue magazine are. So,
Let me ask you one sort of peripheral thing, and then we're about out of time.
but there will always be media.
Right.
We just don't know the final shape it's going to have yet.
The thing I wanted to ask you is about the Wild West nature of the internet, in that much of the stuff you can watch is not legal.
Just fill this out.
And
Well, that,
I
you
don't
know,
see how that's ever going to get fixed.
And then
yeah.
make sure
Um,
your name and your,
There are some people working on interesting solutions for that, but a lot of it's going to have to take place because users and voters and politicians and other people get involved. A site like YouTube, in the early days, they were very explicit that the way they could become billionaires was to put up as much stolen copyrighted material as possible that people could watch for free. So when users posted music and movies and so forth, YouTube was pushing that idea that it should be free. And now we're all accustomed to free. YouTube is bigger than radio because kids use that even more than Spotify. That's where you can find music. And
That's one of the troublesome things about it.
Sure it is. And really these large corporations are completely complicit in theft to this day. So that is something that could change. The promise of the internet was that if you go back to 1992 or 1995 or 1996, the promise of the internet was that it was going to help the little guy. It was going to put him on an equal footing. And in fact, just the opposite has occurred, and it's become obvious to everybody now that companies like Google and Facebook are far larger and far more powerful than any media companies in history. And they can determine who the next president is just by tweaking their search algorithm. So we face a lot of questions about how we want to, as a society, make sure that information is fair and accurate and safeguarding the rights of copyright holders and other people? These questions haven't been answered at all.
Thanks for keeping the faith.
Yeah,
And your cool,
yeah.
insightful comments about the industry.
right.
Thank you for sharing.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Take care.
All right.